You didn't land on this video by chance. Something pulled you in an itch in the back of your mind, a burning curiosity, an unshakable feeling that you need to know who wins this fight. Dricus du Plessis vs. Khamzat Chimaev. A battle between an immovable force and an unstoppable storm. You've heard the debates, the hot takes, the endless arguments online, but deep down, you want more than speculation. You want the truth. And trust me, by the time this is over, you won't just have an answer, you'll feel it in your bones. But I need you to brace yourself, because what you're about to hear will shake everything you thought you knew. This fight, it isn't just a test of skill. It's a collision of mental warfare, endurance, and raw, primal will. The stakes are sky high, and the path to victory is far more treacherous than most people realize. Right now, the UFC world is split. Some say Chimaev's wrestling is just too good. That his Olympic-level grappling, his suffocating pressure, his relentless ability to break fighters will be the deciding factor. Yoel Romero, a man who has fought the best of the best, has already spoken. 60-40 Chimaev, he says. A slight edge, but an edge nonetheless. And when someone like Romero, an Olympic silver medalist in freestyle wrestling, gives a man that kind of praise, you have to take notice. But hold on. Let's pause for a second. Because before you jump on the Chimaev train, before you assume this fight is just another case of a dominant grappler imposing his will, you need to understand something. Dricus du Plessis is not like anyone Chimaev has faced before. Yes, Khamzat has mauled opponents. Yes, he's made elite fighters look average. He dominated Kamaru Usman. He broke Robert Whittaker. And now, with the middleweight title within his grasp, people think this is just another step toward his inevitable reign. But there's a detail and undeniable truth that no one seems to be talking about. A truth that could shatter the illusion of Chimaev's invincibility. Chimaev has never faced a fighter like du Plessis. And I don't just mean stylistically, I mean mentally, physically, and spiritually. Because Dricus du Plessis does not break. He doesn't slow down. He doesn't lose confidence. He doesn't let fear seep into his mind. He has walked through wars, absorbed punishment, and kept moving forward. When he faced Israel Adesanya, people said he would crumble. He didn't. When he fought Sean Strickland, many predicted disaster. He dominated. And here's where things get truly fascinating. Chimaev has been in deep waters before. Against Gilbert Burns, we saw a glimpse of his mortality. Burns cracked him. Burns made him bleed. And for the first time in his career, Chimaev looked human. He still won, but something changed that night. He wasn't untouchable anymore. Now, fast forward to this fight. If Burns could push Chimaev to his limits, what happens when du Plessis, a man with relentless pressure and an iron will, gets his hands on him? What happens when the fight drags into the later rounds? What happens when Chimaev starts to feel that deep, soul-crushing exhaustion that du Plessis thrives in? The answer to this fight isn't as simple as wrestling beats striking or grappling wins championships. Because this isn't just about skills, it's about who can impose their will. Chimaev wants to dictate the fight with his grappling. Du Plessis wants to drag him into deep waters and drown him in the pressure. Two unstoppable game plans. Only one can succeed. And here's the kicker: du Plessis isn't just a striker. People forget that he can wrestle too. He's strong in the clinch. He's dangerous on the ground. And unlike some of Chimaev's past opponents, du Plessis won't just be fighting off takedowns. He'll be throwing bombs. He'll be forcing scrambles. He'll be making Chimaev work for every inch. Which brings us to the biggest question of all. What happens when Chimaev can't break du Plessis? Because that's the secret to Khamzat's success. He overwhelms. He smothers. He destroys his opponents mentally before he does physically. But du Plessis, he's built differently. His mind is a fortress. He won't shatter under pressure. And if he can survive the early storm, if he can push Chimaev into a place he's never been before, everything changes. And just when you think this fight couldn't get any crazier, there's another twist. This battle might not even be the end game. Because whoever wins might have another monster waiting in the shadows. A man who has already conquered the welterweight division. A man who's been watching from the sidelines, waiting for his shot. Belal Muhammad. Yes, you heard that right. The winner of du Plessis vs. Chimaev could be looking at a fight with Muhammad next. He's already hinted at moving up in weight. He's already preparing for his next war. And that means this fight? It isn't just about the belt. It's about the future of the entire division. So, now the question comes back to you. Who do you see standing victorious when the dust settles? Will Chimaev prove that his wrestling is too much for anyone at 185 pounds? Or will du Plessis defy the odds once again and hand Chimaev his first ever loss? The answer is coming. But before you make your decision, before you lock in your pick, there's something else you need to know. Because there's one final piece to this puzzle. One last factor that could change everything. But before you make up your mind, before you choose a side and declare a winner, let me tell you something that could change everything. Because there's one last piece of the puzzle that almost nobody is talking about, one final, hidden factor that might decide this fight before the first punch is even thrown. It's something that has ruined champions. Something that has turned killers into shadows of themselves. And if either Dricus du Plessis or Khamzat Chimaev falls victim to it, their dream of ruling the middleweight division will die before it even begins. I'm talking about the mental war. Because fights like these, they're won and lost long before the octagon door closes. It's not just about who has the better wrestling or the heavier hands. It's about who steps into that cage knowing, not hoping, not believing, but knowing that they will not break. And right now, that question lingers like a storm cloud over both of these men. Let's start with Chimaev. On the surface, he looks like an unstoppable force. The man who ran through fighters like a wrecking ball. The guy who once said, "I will smash everybody. It doesn't matter who." And for a long time, that was true. Every opponent he faced, gone, wiped out, broken. But then came Gilbert Burns. For the first time, Chimaev met someone who fought back. Someone who wasn't just there to survive. Someone who wasn't afraid. And for the first time in his career, Chimaev had to dig deep. He had to push through exhaustion, through adversity, through doubt. And even though he won, a seed was planted. Because suddenly, the world saw that Chimaev could be hurt. He could be put on the back foot. He could be in a dogfight. And if Gilbert Burns could do that to him, what happens when he faces a man like Dricus du Plessis? A man who thrives in chaos. A man who doesn't get tired. A man who doesn't know when to quit. That seed of doubt, if it still exists inside Chimaev's mind, du Plessis will find it. And he will make it grow into something that Khamzat can't control. And then, there's du Plessis. For all his toughness, for all his grit, There's something that looms over his head like a shadow, the fact that many still don't believe in him. Even after beating Israel Adesanya, even after dethroning Sean Strickland, even after proving again and again that he belongs at the top, people still doubt him. They call him unorthodox. They say his striking is awkward. They say his fights are sloppy. And that whisper, that constant murmur in background, if it gets inside his head, if he feels like he has to prove something against Chimaev, that could be his downfall. Because the moment Du Plessis fights with ego, the moment he stops being the relentless machine that brought him here, the moment he tries to prove he's a better wrestler than Chimaev instead of just winning, that's when he loses. And that's real battle here. It's not just wrestling V's, striking. It's not just cardio V's, power. It's about who can stay true to themselves when the pressure is at its peak, when weight of expectation feels unbearable, when the world is watching, waiting for one of them to fall. Because make no mistake, one of them will fall. There are no easy fights at this level. No shortcuts. No safe havens. Only pain, exhaustion, and the undeniable truth that only one of these men will walk away victorious. But before I tell you who that is, there's one last thing we need to discuss. Because no matter who wins, no matter whose hand gets raised, the war won't be over. Because UFC is already setting up the next move. And next move could be most dangerous of all. Because waiting in the shadows, sharpening his weapons, preparing for his moment is Belal Muhammad. The man who has ruled over the welterweight division. The man who has been waiting for his shot at greatness. The man who could step up to middleweight and throw the entire division into chaos. And he's watching this fight very, very closely. Because winner of Du Plessis vs. Chimaev might not get to enjoy their victory for long. So I leave you with this. Are we witnessing the rise of an unstoppable champion? Or are we about to see the beginning of a war that will reshape the UFC forever? One thing's for sure. The fight you've been waiting for is coming. And when it does, the world will never be the same again.